full immersion is central to a lot of concepts of learning a language as intensively as possible. And I will emphasize that you don't need to travel to the country for this. I know a lot of people are thinking maybe this year they won't be able to have immersion in a language because this year a lot of us simply can't travel for the over the whole world. It's just not possible. So they might feel immersion isn't something that's open to them. But for me, full immersion is always available to us. We can immerse ourselves by listening to streamed radio in the language. We can immerse ourselves by having conversations with people live. We can create kind of virtual immersion environments. So there's a lot of different support that you can do to get this. And effectively, you have to imagine if your goal is this quasi immersion, how could I make it so that I'm effectively living my life in that language? So I would not necessarily call it immersion if you're studying a book. Studying a book is very useful for solving particular problems. But when it comes to immersion, you have to be actively using your language. So absolutely central to that is a spoken session with a teacher. There's lots of other things you can do in terms of reading and listening to a language, but a spoken session with a teacher has a few advantages because if it's a good teacher and you can afford to hire someone who's experienced enough to help you out at least once a week or so, then that teacher will adjust for your level. So it doesn't matter if you're a beginner, they will be able to help you push it up a notch. And if you have a little bit of experience, then they can get you that momentum that you need. So for me, the best support by far is not software or flashcards. It's a human being that you are actually getting practice with in the language. And I know that for a lot of people, this can feel intimidating and it can feel like, yeah, but I need to study lots of vocabulary first. I need to maybe finish, I don't know, Duolingo before I dare speak a language. And like, these do help you in certain ways, but in other ways, they're just procrastination tools. And I have been as guilty of this as anybody else, of thinking like I could get practice in my language, but I don't feel like it's good enough, so I'll do something else. Sometimes it just turns into busy work. And this is another reason a lot of us end up learning a language for 6 years or 10 years and we don't really speak it. It's because it's not because we weren't doing anything. We were working at the language, but we were working at things that aren't necessarily the hard things that really push us forward. So for me, it has to be central that you are speaking the language for these beginner stages. For the later stages, there's a lot of other things you can do, but I would think more flashcards and software to be the tools to help us with the core activities. So even if speaking isn't your core activity, maybe reading is your core activity, and that's the aspect of the language you want to improve most right now. In that case, you need to be reading as much as possible, and your flashcards are supporting that goal. So this is kind of, when it comes to immersion, I think the general theme is you have some true actual use of the language that is not just busy work of studying. And the studying, instead of being busy work, becomes the support that helps that main core aspect improve.
I also just kind of want to reiterate what you said because I am one of the people that will do anything I can to avoid speaking because I'm so introverted and shy. It's one of the hardest things for me to do. But many years ago, I did Benny's Speak in a Week, and I realized the value of speaking in that. And then I've gone on to not only be the coach for the Fluent 3 Months Challenge, but participate them nonstop for almost 3 years now. And the reason that I keep doing them is because it works. And for most people, the goal of learning a language is to be able to speak it and use it. And you can't get better at the thing that you want to do unless you do it. And so if I were to give you the example of if you were driving and you want to become better at parallel parking, if you don't ever practice parallel parking, you just continue to park in a spot where you can just pull right in, you're not improving the skill you need to improve. You're not going to get better at parallel parking by parking in a normal spot. You need to practice parallel parking. And the same is true for speaking. You're not going to get better at speaking unless you speak. And there's reasons for that. And it's not just being able to connect what's in your brain to your mouth, there's actual muscle training that needs to go on as well. So what your tongue is doing, what your lips are doing, what your throat is doing, what your voice is doing, and how all of those things are combining. Unless you practice that skill and build that coordination, it's not going to come. So it's just something that you need to do.
Getting started with immersion in your target language can feel like a big step, and if you'd like support with this, I highly recommend you check out the Fluent in 3 Months Challenge. We'll help you to have a 15-minute conversation in just 90 days. Sign up using the link and get immersed in your target language.